be on top.
Welcome to Now That's Debatable. This is your host, Fantastic Facade. I am joined with my trusty co-host, Triple A the Humanist. But we have quite a few guests on today, so I'm going to introduce them in order as they're going to appear when we go live up on the screen. We have K-Dub, who's been on the show before. We've had Sorrell, who's been on the show before. We have Triple A the Humanist, my trusty co-host, and we have King Oglesby, which has been on the show before. And I am going to get everybody's face up on the screen now, and we're going to be talking about hip-hop and its impact on the world and society and the society we live in. You're going to see my face is kind of blocked out of the way, mainly because I plan on staying mostly out of the way of the podcast for this one. I do have a quote up over my face that I will read out for everyone, just because I think it's a good one if you're not watching the show, if you can't see the screen. Music is a moral law. It gives soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and charm and gaiety to life and to everything. Plato. I think that's a wonderful quote regarding music in general, obviously not specific to hip-hop or any other music, but we're going to be talking about hip-hop specifically today. So, gentlemen, I am going to cede the floor and the rest of my time to you guys. Have at it.
Sure. So, I wanted to tailor the conversation to whether or not hip hop is a net positive, right? Because we all know there's some good that can come from hip hop, and there's some bad, right? I don't think anybody be foolish enough to say that it is entirely one thing or the other. But the main question is, let's say you were omnipotent and you could remove hip hop and all the effects thereof. Would society be better off with it gone, or if it's still here? So
I don't think that it would be better off. I think society as a whole, hip hop influences so many parts of society. Hip hop has also saved a lot of lives.
True.
It's a lot of people that that felt that they came from certain neighborhoods and they felt that their only way out was either sports, drugs, entertainment. Mm-hmm. And you may not be good enough or tall enough to play sports. And drugs, boy, that's where that leads you.
Do you think it's saved more lives than it's harmed?
I don't know.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
I don't know. I'd have to see the numbers on that.
I mean, I guess it'd be kind of hard to crunch down the numbers, because we see somebody in drugs or selling drugs or in prison. It'd be kind of hard to say, hey, it's hip hop that caused him to do that. He may have made those decisions regardless, but
and even the definition of like saving lives, like what does that actually mean? Are you saying like he's now successful as an alternative to selling drugs? Because I would say, well, he may have had his life saved, put that in quotes, but what's the message he's communicating to others that's now harming them? You know what I'm saying? And so maybe we can flesh even some of that stuff out, because I don't think it's saving someone's life if they become successful. Now they're rapping about drugs, killing, and misogyny.
But when he says saving lives, he's meaning like a lot of kids in the inner city that were poor. It gave them an opportunity to get out the hood, to get out of that environment, to put themselves in a better environment and put their family in a better environment.
So financial.
Yeah, exactly. So in a way, you're saving lives. If you can change your environment and change your family's fortune and get them out of that environment, then you're saving lives, because a lot of them wouldn't have made it if they were stayed in that environment.
There's an old saying that relates to this. You could take a person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the person.
That is true. That is true.
So
true.
Though he may have got out the hood, he still has hood mentality. You see this a lot with dudes who come out of prison. They still have like that mentality, and that's why I would say the mentality has to change.
Not all the time. I mean, there's also a maturation process that has to occur. So,
that's true.
With a lot of people, you do come into it acting a certain way, being a certain way, especially when you are not that far removed from that type of environment.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, you have the artists, for instance, Jay-Z. I think we can say that the hood, at least the way it was, ain't still there. Now, I'm sure there's some things he can, if he needs to revert back to being a certain person for certain situations, then I'm sure that he could do that. But Jay-Z can sit down with anybody anywhere. And
I want to quote some lyrics to you guys. right?
Okay.
Let's do net positive, right? And who I'm going to quote, right? We all know this person, and this is supposed to be one of the more conscious rappers. So this isn't, right? I can get Chief Keef, who like obviously that's the music. He talks about drugs and killing, right? But this is supposed to be someone who's known for a positive message, and that's Nas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Listen to what he says and shoot him up. He says 144, 245s, 3 loaded clips, 4 N-words roll, 1 N-word drives, 500 bins, 6 reasons why this kid should die. We shooting every MF outside. Pulled on his block, jumped out the car. Guns in our hands at the same time, everybody ran. There go that N hiding in the crowd. Let that trigger blow. 7 shots, now he lying on the ground. And so we talk about the net positive, or music. So this is supposed to be one of the people who's portraying a positive message. And look, I can go with everyone. Common, Tupac, people who are more known for a positive message. They all have lines like this where, and I'm not anti-gun, but they have lines like this about killing people, misogyny. I mean, you got Rick Ross saying, I popped the Molly in her drink. She didn't even know it. Like, how is this helpful to our society? Especially, look, we're all black.
Let me ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. We all watch movies, correct?
Correct.
Who has more killing? What has more killing in it than movies? So if
say that again.
What has more killing in it than movies? Than most of the movies you see?
What action movies?
Exactly right. So
yeah.
If you're blaming music, the influence that music has on the youth or on anybody for a lot of murders or a lot of killing that's happening, then why doesn't the movies and things like that get that same type of blame?
I think okay.
So let me so let me nuance. It'll be different if they're telling what happened. This doesn't sound like he's just telling what happened.
Do you listen to a lot of Nas?
No, I don't listen to a lot of music. I don't agree with.
So you use, because in listening to a lot of Nas, he tells you in his music that I'm looking at things through my project window. I'm talking about things that I've actually seen or experienced. These are my experiences, which a lot of hip hop and rap music does. It's talking about their experiences. You know what I mean? So
6 reasons why this kid should die. That doesn't sound like just him telling an experience, but rather what he believes. You see what I'm saying?
No.
Also, too, if even if he was telling his experience, he's telling it. I mean, I'm not familiar with that particular song. I listen to a lot of Nas.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when these rappers, when they're telling their experiences in a way that would promote that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And so even then it's not okay. So
again, so that goes back to my original question. So if I watch a movie, am I more likely to listen to a song that would promote that behavior, or watch a movie that would promote that behavior?
I would probably say a song.
If I go quicker.
I would say, but so even if the movie
is actually giving you a bigger visual, right?
But so the movie may be problematic as well,
sure.
But that doesn't excuse hip hop. That doesn't excuse the music. Just like the way I would see it is, maybe we should address both of them.
Right.
We shouldn't look at it as like, hey, the movie's just a bunch of killing.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's okay to do it in music.
And I'm just speaking on influence in general. Because when we talk about mentality, I grew up in the inner city. I grew up in Southeast DC. You know what I mean? And I've seen a lot of killing. I've seen a lot of bodies and things of that nature. I listen to rap music and I listen to go-go music. I've never listened to a song and it made me want to go out and kill somebody or want to go out and emulate that music. But that's just me. You know what I mean? I think Go ahead.
And I'll address it real quick and give the floor back to you. There are a lot of people who have told stories about before they go do a shooting, before they go hit a lick, before they go listen to a song. Nuck if you buck. Hey, I'm a little older. I'm kind of telling my age, right? They listen to a music that kind of gets them hyped up to go do this. So there are people who do, though that's not your experience, right? And I'm thankful it isn't. There are people who, and I think music is a powerful tool. It can create emotions that aren't there, that you experience. Like, wow, I didn't even know, and that's what a good artist does, and so there's something to honor in that, but I think it has to be done rightly.
So I tell you what, if that person that listened to Nuck If You Buck and they went and killed somebody, cops came and picked them up. They did not come pick up crime mob.
Yeah.
You know what that means? We got to go back to the person. What is going on with that person that is that easily influenced by the music? If it's not that, then it's going to be some other influence. It's not just the music that's the problem. The problem is the fact that you were that easily influenced by something outside of you. So what is it that's going on with you? That right there is the problem. Well, that's what we need to get to the bottom.
There's a reason when we study serial killers, we want to study their behavior, what led up to that. So I'm not saying rap music is the blame and we should like lock up Crime Mob or lock up Nas for what someone does, but there are effects that things happen. I mean, it's serial rapists. It's no secret that they struggle with intense pornography. And so there are things that lead up to actions. And so I'm not saying, again, we should lock up Nas or Crime Mob, but there's a reason we study their behavior and things that lead up to that.
So just to interject if I could.
Go ahead.
There's a comment by commentary.
In the days of Bumpy Johnson and them, what were they listening to? The OJs to get hyped up to go kill somebody?
No, so
you understand what I'm saying? Like, so,
I would think
like that's something. That's just mentality. That's just neighborhood. That's just the mentality in the neighborhood that you in that has that influence. The music has nothing to do with it.
Well, so I wouldn't, and I don't think KW either was blaming the all the shootings. We're saying this is entirely the fault of hip hop music. Somebody
people listen to country music, they kill people too.
Right.
Exactly,
so not saying somebody listened to a song and all of a sudden develop homicidal tendencies. However, to me, I think it's problematic when there's a popular form of music and the culture that goes with it that not just tells the stories of, but glorifies destructive behavior.
Yeah.
So it there may not be somebody who would just listen to this song and immediately go out and kill someone, but people are listening to this and thinking this life is cool.
You're right.
Yeah. You're right.
I want to be a gangster. I want to do this. And this is just one of the things that's kind of edging them on. Like I was talking to.
People generally don't listen to jazz music before they go kill 10 people, right? There's a certain culture that goes with this, right?
We don't know that to be true. That's not factual.
That's why I said generally.
Yeah, I mean we don't know that to be true. So you can't speak generally.
I have a playlist that I created and I named it Just In Case, right? And I named it just in case something pop off and I need something to get me riled up. It gets me hyped up, and I may need to go punch somebody in the face. I mean, not this past summer before last, me and my wife had some issues with another couple, and nothing happened. It could have, and it probably should have, but cooler heads prevailed. We were able to walk away. But as soon as we got in the car, I said, "Baby, we putting on this playlist," and we sitting and we listening to this playlist, and we are like riled up, and it's like whatever, like it's on, right? Actually, Nuck If You Buck is on that. It's on that playlist.
I know it is.
I'm sure it is.
But here's the thing, though. The music is what was in the middle. What matters is what happened before the music and what happened after the music. So the issue was before the music. So if something would have happened, it wouldn't have been as a result of the music that we were listening to. Look, I could have gone to the car and sat in the car and listened to that music and then got hyped up and then went back in there. And then if something popped off, then I would have fought and we would have handled business or whatever. But it wouldn't have been as a result of the music. It would have been my actions.
Yeah. So to be clear, it's definitely not my position that it's the music that would have caused that. But like what I'm concerned about is the culture that the music is creating. It's creating a culture that where it glorifies engaging in destructive behavior. So I mean, I think like I listened to. I was talking to my brother a few days ago, and he was talking about how he used to work in the prison, and he was talking about how these young cats, 19, 20 years old, serving life sentences, and they were walking around quoting Jeezy like it was the Bible. So like it's that to me. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that people who listen to this music have heroes like that. You know what I mean? And these guys, they're listening to these lyrics and it's meaning something to them. You know, they are quoting it back. They're like, this is like, hey, this is part of their like who they are. You know, and I'm not saying they if it wasn't for the music, they'd be a good person, but music does have some influence, and it could be good or it could be bad. Right. And why not? I think they would be better off if the music was condemning that self-destructive behavior rather than promoting it.
Well, let's actually put the
blame
where the blame lies as far as the music, because we know there is a lot of conscious music out there.
It is.
There's a lot of rappers out there that don't talk about, that don't glorify killing or the streets or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look at who's promoting that type of music. When you listen to the hip hop on the radio, that's the only thing you hear. You don't hear a lot of the conscious stuff on the radio. So you got to look at who's promoting that music and who's putting the money and the marketing dollars behind that music to promote that kind of music out there.
I'm glad we got on a conscious topic. So, because I was thinking about this, I was looking at some of your conscious rappers, like some of your J. Cole, some of your Lupes, etc. I think a lot of guys like that, in a way, do a bigger disservice than some of your more explicit, you know, gangster rappers. Because yes, because see, like J. Cole, he will have rappers. He won't say it, but he will have people on his record as features, and they will just spew some nonsense. And J. Cole, by letting him doing that, it's a tacit approval of that. Imagine this is my podcast. Imagine if I just let a white supremacist come on here and he was just rallying a bunch of hate, and I was just like, you know, I didn't say I didn't push back on it. I just platformed it. That is, I see a lot of these conscious rappers. They're platforming some of these artists.
That's right.
But if you did that, it's up to the viewer to make a decision. You know,
it is.
It always goes back to collective receiving it, because there's so much conscious music out there. There's so much. You have R&B, you have gospel, you have country, there are all these different genres of music. These people are choosing to pick hip-hop, and a lot of this I guess more violent form of hip hop. They're making the decision to listen to that when they could have made a decision. See, the most powerful thing that you could ever do in your life is make a decision about something. So just they are making the decision to listen to that music. They are making the decision to be influenced by that. That's they're making the decision. Violence has been here from the beginning of time, and somebody is going to look at that violence and be influenced by that. So there's only so much onus that we can put on hip hop.
I'm not
going on since
definitely
hip-hop.
I'm not saying hip hop's the original sin. It's not where all the violence, you know, comes from. But I think it's a problem. Just like if there was a book that was glorifying murder, we would say that book is problematic, right? Even though there was murder that existed before the book, and we'll be talking about that book. What I'm saying,
you mean like the Art of War?
What?
Well,
Art of
War?
Definitely not.
No,
I don't think Art of War goes across murder.
Now there's a quick break in the conversation. Now that there's a quick break in the conversation, though.
It is good to murder people. But we would condemn that book. There's music that is literally doing that.
Hey, Josh, you mean like the Bible?
True. Like the Bible.
There's a quick break in the conversation.
That's debatable.
That's debatable. Yeah, but
hey, guys. Quick break in the conversation. I'm not trying to contribute in any way. I'm just reading a quote from one of our.
We want you to.
No, it's cool. I got somebody in the audience that said, and this was going back to something earlier, which I was trying to get your attention, but we missed it. It says, if you're going to compare music to movies, then you'd have to say rappers are playing characters. So like in movies and TV, obviously people are acting and playing the role of somebody, whereas in music, you know, these are people telling you, like you said, telling their own experiences. Or, you know, kind of expressing their own experiences. That's just what the audience is.
Most rappers are playing a role.
They are portraying a
Most
role.
rappers are portraying a role.
They are actors.
Which
Yes.
is why I don't think it's fair to say, hey, people are making this choice or this decision to listen to it, which they are, but then we can't hold no responsibility to the decision and the choice the rappers are using to share their influence. Like I'm saying both are wrong. The person choosing to divulge in this music and the person making the music, like they're both needs to have some accountability. I one of Chief Keef, I mentioned him earlier, right? He says, but you're gonna suck my D or I'll kill you. I mean, like, are we gonna say that has no influence to these young guys in Chicago that are literally killing females because they won't do sexual favors for them?
I'm going to be honest with you. There are a lot of rap lyrics that I don't agree with. So a lot like lines like that. There are a lot of things that I think are very distasteful and that I'm not a fan of. And there are a lot of rappers that I'm not a fan of for that very reason. However, I'm still not going to blame them for somebody else doing something that they heard in their song. I'm not going to blame them for that.
So, and this is why I say there needs to be some kind of
like the message.
They're not fully to blame, right? The person, there's an individual responsibility, but this person is. I think the reason why I like rap music so much is because it's a good medium for teaching, and whether you like it or not, someone doing music is teaching you. They're subliminally, directly, indirectly. Rap is a very strong teaching medium.
So let me ask you a question, right?
Yes.
And this is just sticking with the if someone gets hyped up listening to a music and it influences them to commit a certain crime or to commit a certain act, right? If you was to take that same person that listened to a Chief Keef song and sat them in front of a Kirk Franklin song, do you think that would deter them from committing that crime?
So again, I'm not saying the person already had the motive there. They had the desire there.
Exactly. The desire is there.
But my concern isn't somebody hears a song and then go out and commit an act. I'm talking about the culture that the song fosters. It fosters a culture of people that proudly engage in self-destructive behavior.
Like the video I sent you, what was it, a couple weeks ago? Remember with the little kid? You can bring that up.
Yes, he sent me a video. Okay, they sent me a video. It's this little kid that's I don't remember if it was a little boy or a little girl, but it was just saying this garbage stuff.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was some very explicit things. Even now, like now in hip hop, it's cool to be a dope head. Like it. So at first it went from first it was bad to use drugs. And then it was like, hey, we selling these drugs, but we don't want to, but this is how we can make our life better. And then it went to it's cool to sell drugs, and now it's cool to do drugs. Like they're bragging about being crackheads, bragging about being hooked on over the counter drugs. Like this is crazy. And I'm not saying somebody would do drugs just from listening to the song. They might. I'm sure that happens. But I think what's far more damaging is the culture that's fostered as a result of this.
Yeah,
it completely relinquishes accountability.
So is it the music that's influencing the culture, or is it the culture that's influencing the music?
That's a great question.
I don't think you can separate the music from the culture. I think it's a part of it. I think
because the music is only the expression of what the culture is. Correct.
Yes. Well,
exactly.
Sort of.
So,
I think
so music is
part of the culture.
Yeah. So like I think it depends. So like I think with your more famous rappers, they're influencing the culture. Whether like your low level rappers, they are I guess indicating the temperature of the culture. So like your guy who nobody knows, he's just rapping what he thinks everybody's gonna like. But your big guys, what they say actually influences masses of people, millions of people at one time that can like direct a culture.
Got a question in the chat, if we could. Sorry, were you done, K-Dub? I didn't mean to overtalk you.
No, you're good.
Sorry. Yeah. All right, cool. Question in the chat says, can you credit a motivational speech for a life decision?
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
I think so.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to turn it around on us. Absolutely. Yes. You 100% can do that.
And I think I know where that person's going. Then
yes,
Donald Trump is a good example of that.
exactly. But again,
for better or for worse.
Yeah.
So the thing is this: if I listen to a motivational speech and I'm influenced by that, and I go and I become successful, I can in a speech say, I listened to so and so and they inspired me, right? But the money I make does not go into their pocket.
Sure.
It was still a decision that I made. So based off the decision that I made, I reap the benefits. Or if it's a bad decision, I'm the one that deals with the consequences because it's my decision.
Sure, I'm definitely not saying, hey, lock people up who talk these things and then somebody goes out and do these things. But I think the person who asked that question is actually getting to something very key. If we can credit a positive thing to some kind of speech, right? I think of football players all the time, sports, right? What like there was a locker room speech, man. It turned the game, right? It turned the game around for us. If this person wouldn't have said this, who knows? Obviously they had the talent in them all along, right? But generally they'll credit this act, the motivation even for this positive speech. But it seems like when it's something negative, we want to take all the kind of responsibility and say, well, it was just on the person that's said the thing, and we can't put any kind of influence on that. So to me, it kind of be like a double standard in some sense. You know what I mean?
Think it's a double standard. I think we have to look at intention. A football player trying to rally the troops is for the purpose of trying to win the game. This rapper is not going into the studio trying to influence people to kill people. That's not the intention there. My intention is for us to go win this game. My intention is not for you to go shoot somebody.
Yeah.
So I would.
Because we can't forget the fact that when these rappers are talking about killing people, they're also talking about the consequences behind it as well. They're talking about the revenge killings. They're talking about prison. They're talking about all the consequences behind it as well. And the same person that's listening to the song, if you're listening to the consequences and you still use that song as an influence to go out there and commit a crime, you know the actions of your crime anyway.
Are they all talking about the consequences though?
A lot of them do, yeah.
Some of them do, some of them don't, and that's that's the thing. What I was going to talk about.
Who doesn't know the consequences behind murder in any way? Who doesn't know that?
Well, and that's the thing that I was talking about with the conscious rap, right? Because some of these guys who are talking about the consequences of that and talking about building a community, they're platforming guys that we ought to discuss. You're not discuss as in talk about, but I mean being like disgusting, right? Somebody we ought to like, hey, this isn't a good guy. That's like I was talking about. Like I look at some of the guys that J. Cole platforms, some of the guy that Royce the 5'9", another positive guy that I think he platforms like nonsense, and it's his tacit approval, which I think is even worse. Or because there are people who would have never been exposed to some of that nonsense. They just like the conscious rap,
right?
And they're listening to a song, and then they hear a feature from this guy, and then they go check out this music. Now that's a pathway. They just segue into some of that more destructive hip hop.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have made a decision.
You said they would have made a decision?
Yeah.
Well, sure, but I mean,
or maybe not. I think you bring up a good point. What about the people who like they never they grew up in a suburb, right? Very nice, wealthy suburb. So I live like in the Dallas area. So Highland Park, man, that's like the wealthiest suburb around me, man. What about the person who doesn't even think like this, doesn't think about murdering, doesn't even think about like selling drugs? They start listening to this music and then they start doing it because the idea is planted. I do think that there's a message. We're talking about children. There's a reason why we want to import positive things in the children, because children are sponges, man. You can literally shape a kid to do something bad, and our minds are moldable. And so we could blame the person and say, oh, well, they're just weak-minded. I think we all are to some extent. I mean, you constantly plant negative images into somebody's head. I'm not surprised when they do these things.
How many people, and we know the notoriety that Eminem has, right? He has the most album sales of it, probably any rapper ever, correct? Right? You know what I mean? So how many kids in the inner city, or even out of the inner city, in the suburbs, or in or certain areas, stuff their baby mama in a trunk, from listening to an Eminem song.
So,
and that song probably been played more than any hip hop song out there. How many?
So I'm not sure if anybody has ever done that just from listening to that song. But what I'm saying is, so listening to that and listening to a guy like Eminem, making that as your hero, it encourages other similar forms of destructive behavior.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, maybe it's not, oh, I'm just gonna put my girlfriend in the trunk, but maybe it's like, oh,
smack around a bit.
Yes. Maybe resort to violence when I get angry. So I'm not saying like somebody's going to model the exact behavior in a song, but the big part is the culture that we're cultivating with that. Tell me this. So, like, imagine that we're just 20 years after the abolition of slavery. And then there was a guy that was coming around, and he was encouraging Black people who was trying to make it in society. He's encouraged them to kill each other and use drugs and all that type of stuff, and say derogatory things towards your women. Like, that'd be a coon, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now, what does that mean?
So let me be very clear.
Okay.
Going back to what I said earlier, I am not a fan of a lot of the messages.
Yeah.
I'm not. And everything that y'all are saying makes complete sense.
It does.
By the way.
It does.
And yes, I do think that people are influenced by music. But what I'm saying is it still falls on that person to make the decision, So yes, the influence is going to be there. There are always going to be influences, whether it's from music, from movies, from.
But why add? But why add this one? Like, let's say like there's a little kid. He's constantly being pressured by people from school and from baseball practice and stuff. To do drugs. Cool. That doesn't make it acceptable for me to also pressure him to do drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, why add that? Why add that pressure?
Especially with more influence.
When you start talking about kids, it does change things a lot for me, because kids are so impressionable, and it's very easy. So when I'm having this conversation about being easily influenced, I'm not talking about children, because it is very easy to influence children.
But children are some of the main consumers.
I was just about to say that they're like your number one, especially today, because they know how to use the internet.
So now, if we're going to switch to that conversation, now we got to start talking about parenting. Now we got to talk about the influences.
Some of them feeding it to them,
because I'm telling you, me and a lot of people that I know grew up listening to the music, but wouldn't dare do the things that we were hearing in that music because of those influences around us. Exactly. The influences around us were more important to us than the music that we were listening to. Now, unfortunately, that's not always going to be the case for a lot of children. Some of them, they grow up where their influence is just as bad as the message in the music.
Yeah,
I do understand that. I do get that. But I think that we have to be we got to understand that we can't. I think we're having a conversation about trying to control something that we can't control. And at the end of the day, the only thing that we can control is ourselves. We can't control what music people are going to put out there. We just can't control it. It's going to happen. So right now, us saying that music will influence a culture, whether for good or for bad, is only a conversation, because it's not going to change anything.
I think it can. I think it can.
The individual thinking.
I think it can, because, like, I mean, you go back 30 years ago, it was not cool to be a crackhead. It was not cool to be hooked on prescription drugs. This is something that developed in the last 6 or 7 years or so, or around like the SoundCloud era. Now, like, you talking about like rappers being, oh yeah, I'm hooked on Xannies. Like, I'm not selling drugs. I'm the drug head. I'm the one on the side of the street scratching my head. I mean, like, I think this can change.
Yeah.
We have a conversation with this.
I agree with that.
Yes. It always starts off low level, right? Like, change starts off like right here, barbershop level talk, right? And then it grows to the masses, right?
So, but how do we do that? Because if we look at because it has changed, but it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
You went through the progression. It went from don't sell drugs to, well, I'm selling drugs, but I don't want to be here. Now, then to promoting selling drugs, then to using the drugs. It's only getting worse. So how do we reverse that when the message that
you know what the biggest influence on all that has been?
What's that?
The record companies that's putting the money behind this music.
That's true.
Let's not take it away from that.
Sure.
Yeah, they're all.
If you have like I said, why aren't they promoting the conscious rap for our communities?
Well, but there's plenty of artists out there. I mean, J. Cole is a top selling artist. So is Kendrick. But I think artists like that, like not only do the platforms some of these awful rappers,
they do it themselves.
That's what I was going to say. They do it themselves.
Every conscious
Kendrick a conscious rapper.
He came out that way. He started that way.
Kendrick Lamar?
Kendrick a conscious rapper?
Yeah, I would consider him a conscious rapper.
It's a lot of gang stuff promoted in his music as well.
But that's the point I think he's trying to make is they'll have a more conscious rap album or song, right? Where it's promoting positivity, right? Treating women right, being a respectable man, and then turn around the next song or album saying the direct opposite of that. I mean, you can find that. I mean, Tupac, one of his best songs or most popular songs is about his mom, Dear Mama, right? But then you got like songs where he's telling women to shake their butts and twerk, and right, obviously not that language, but where it's very misogynistic. So it's like you have these competing messages that often contradict each other with the same rapper.
Because you have a lot of
genre.
Because you have a lot of rappers. See, if you know anything about, you have a lot of rappers that want to be able to feed their families, right? So they may want to promote a certain type of music. The labels that's backing them is telling them, no, we don't want to put that out there. This is what we want you to talk about. So they're pressured into putting a certain type of music out there because that's all that the label is going to put the marketing in. I mean, it's proven fact.
That's what I wanted to say earlier when the show first started. You were talking about how hip hop helps people, right? Because it helps them make a career and get their family out the hood and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But at what expense?
Exactly.
At what expense? I get my family out the hood by keeping your families in it.
Right. It's the pyramid scheme.
Yeah. So I'm telling your kids to do drugs while mine go to a private school.
Well, you're trying to turn these rappers into Malcolm X.
Well, no.
It's not their responsibility to be responsible for their own neighborhood.
I'm not trying to.
I'm responsible for my family.
Wait. Yes, it is.
I disagree. I think we are brothers keepers.
To your community, to your family and community, and your society you're in. Like you can't tell your family, hey man, get your education, and then to these guys, hey, you sell drugs. So yeah.
You put a lot of responsibility on a kid just trying to make it, right? Or a kid just trying to be able to feed his family. Because before I can worry about anybody else's family or even the entire community, I got to make sure that my family is good first, right?
Yeah, but like you said, what extent?
You can make sure your family is good first, but that doesn't mean you have to promote negative influences on the other family. And in order to build up my yard, I don't have to, crap all over yours. Right. And that's what's going on here. I can build my yard first and then help build yours. But that's not what's going on.
Okay, right. I got a question for y'all. Do y'all listen to? So, as a matter of fact, Chris, more specifically for you, because you were quoting Nas. Do you listen to Nas?
All the time. Yeah, all the time.
Honestly, I don't.
You're talking about that, Chris. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I forgot my name is Terrell.
Other Terrell. No, I mean.
Okay. Okay. No, I don't listen. My music's choice is I don't listen to
a lot of Christian
Nas
hip-hop.
or that. Yeah, I listen to a lot of Christian hip hop and stuff like that.
So you're going to save the world then?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I think much of the Christian genre is trash too. So.
Definitely. I can't stand it. It's hard.
But not. So I think.
Okay, Josh. I mean.
I want to know where you're going to. I want to know what you're going to.
I want to.
Let him get his point out. Go ahead.
Okay, so but you listen to Nas though, right?
Oh yeah, I listen to it.
Oh, sorry, him.
Okay, so would you be part of the problem?
Are you talking to me?
No, Tribulate.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I would agree. Yeah, I love the responsibility. I've given Nas tons of streaming numbers, especially in his last 3 years with the project that he those 6 projects that he put out. Oh yes,
Magic and
Disease. these last 6 props, Magic Kenny G's 1, 2, and 3. I mean, I don't think those were nearly as destructive as the some of the earlier stuff he had put out. But so, do y'all listen to Christian hip hop at all? You familiar with it?
I have.
tried to at one point. It's
Okay.
like I didn't hear anything
So-
that I liked.
It's bad.
You can
It's bad.
see the influences on Christian hip hop
bad.
because even in Christian hip hop, there are things that pulled over from secular hip hop. Like it is very popular thing to do in Christian hip hop to refer to the Bible as a gun.
Right.
Right, you're talking about shooting demons and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, so even some of that destructive behavior, it seeps its way in,
Right.
even into the not just the conscious stuff, but the Christian stuff. Like there is something about hip hop that's promoting destructive behavior, even when it's trying to teach a positive message.
Or like very. It's another thing. It's like even how Christians will talk about about their wives being like baddies. Right. And like, bro, like, why are you talking about your wife this way? So yeah, there is a pullover from secular hip hop into Christian hip hop. And so that's why I'm like, man, I don't even find myself listening to much current Christian hip hop because it's like, it's the same. It's the edited version of secular.
Okay. So nothing is either all good or all bad.
Oh yeah, of course.
So because of that, we're talking about the negative aspect of hip hop. We're not talking about the positive side.
But there's tons of positive.
But because nothing is all good or all bad, do we have to get rid of everything?
No. So and to say this is the tough question that I wanted to be about. Like, so I wanted it to be if it's a net positive, then you would keep it because it's doing more good than harm.
Right.
But if it's not, then you ought to get rid of it.
Okay, so
and
that's
it's doing one of those two things. Yeah, it's doing one of those two
than
things.
Good is the question.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And okay. I think overall, rap, especially over the last decade, has done more bad than good. Just with promoting, violence, promoting misogyny, promoting contradictory messages. That's not good. If you tell a child one thing and then next song he's hearing another thing. Even in the midst of good, even in the midst of, hey man, go make something out of yourself. Look at me, I did it too. Okay, fine, that's good, but like I said, at what expense? As we've been saying.
I think wherever you sit from, your view from wherever you sit, I think you're right. If that's what you see, then you're right. If I see the opposite, then I'm right. But I think it's all about what you see, what your experiences are, and how you receive the things that you see. So, yeah, you're absolutely right in what you're saying, but I'm absolutely right in what I'm saying as well. So now
I got a question.
The fact that there's these two contradictory messages actually proves my point. The fact that you can listen to all of this hip hop and it be so the lines are so blurred to where there's actually no cohesive positive message, and you can kind of get what you can out of it. Hey, kind of prove the point I'm saying about it being contradictory.
Okay, and you're a Christian, right?
Absolutely.
What about the Bible?
What about it?
Same thing.
Same thing. What?
The contradictory messages.
I would disagree.
I know
that's debatable.
but here's the thing.
I told myself I was going to say that a few times.
But see, I'm disagreeing with you with what you're saying about music. So we're right back at the same place.
Sure. So I'm arguing. So I guess my argument is a little bit different because you're admitting that it's contradictory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not admitting the same.
And by the way, I'm a Christian. By the way, I want to make that clear.
You're saying
you are?
I don't.
Yes.
I don't want to get off subject, but you're saying that you're admitting that the Bible is not contradictory?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
I'm a Christian.
All right.
We've had this discussion on here before.
Yeah, I don't want to get too off subject.
All right.
And I tell you, and I am a Christian, and I do believe that the Bible is contradictory, but I believe that that's a different conversation. I don't want to go there.
I just wanted to get him to admit that. That was cool.
Yeah. So, but all right, go ahead.
What I was gonna say was that hip hop artists, they're not the only guys, they're not the only artists that grew up in the hood, right?
Right.
You got a lot of your R&B and funk. I mean, even like go back from the 70s. Some of these grew up in like some of these slums, right? You know, like Marvin Gaye, he had a hard life.
Yeah.
He wasn't promoting the violence in his music.
Right.
Why is the fact that in hip hop, if Marvin Gaye was doing that, it wouldn't be acceptable. But if Marvin Gaye was a rapper and doing that, it would be.
But Marvin
To me,
Gaye,
that is problematic.
but Marvin Gaye's
we would
music was very sexually driven. So
It was.
what about the people who decide that they want to be promiscuous because they listen to Let's Get It On?
I mean, to do it, if you want to have consensual sex with people, I mean, go ahead and do it. Like,
There's one part.
I'm not a.
I would argue.
There's one part of Marvin Gaye's song "Let's Get It On" where he tells a girl, "I'm threatening you. I'm trying to get it on."
Okay, yeah, I'm not okay with that.
He actually said that in the song.
He's a bit aggressive in that song.
So-
Okay, but listen,
or
like,
Teddy Pendergrass, turn him off, right? He's just yelling. It's like, bro, why are you so aggressive?
well, I said be safe, but that's not the same as, you know, murdering people or degrading your black women and all that type of stuff. I don't see that same. But all the negative aspects that you could point to in Marvin Gaye's music exist like tenfold in hip hop.
Sure.
Right. But if we're looking at let's look at the end result. So if he's promoting sex and somebody decides to listen to that music and now they want to be promiscuous and they're doing so and they're unsafe with it and they contract diseases and now they're spreading those diseases. Now the end result, it could still be death.
This is quite the slippery slope, man.
It could still be death.
I mean,
but you know what?
This is where me and Josh maybe have a nuance. So, because I would argue that, you know, promiscuous sex, just having sex with people, isn't safe, isn't good for a society outside of the diseases in general. You know, children out of wedlock, fatherlessness, etc. I'm not saying he would disagree with that. I'm sure he would be pro-family, but I don't think just going around having sex with like the song Lil Wayne, right? I just want to F every girl in the world. I don't think that's good for society. You know, I mean, but like you said, that happened. That message is in R&B, but it's also in hip hop as well. So there's also a blend between these two genres that, you know, Chris Brown, right? Is he R&B? Is he rap? There's a blend, so to speak, in some of these genres as well.
I think if we're going to put the onus on music as that big of an influence, then we need to put it on all music and not just.
Well, I'm not saying it's that big of an influence because and I want to be clear. So it's not just rap music, right? It is hip hop culture. Right. And so Chris Brown, he's not a rapper, but he's part of hip hop culture.
Sure.
And he promotes some of that self-destructive behavior as well. Like there's a, I mean,
but when we say hip hop culture, we're just putting it strictly on music. Hip hop culture is not just music. It's also art. It's also dance.
Well, yeah.
I think that's kind of what he's saying. Is more
all
broad.
the elements.
So, right.
MCing, DJing, D-boying, and graffiti. Right. Those are the four elements of hip hop. I mean, so I'd include all of that.
Okay.
But I mean,
but we're putting it strictly. We're pretty much talking about rap itself.
No. I'm talking about hip hop culture.
Okay, because I didn't hear anybody say about b-boying or about graffiti having an influence over somebody going out and murdering somebody. Well, so we're talking about rap.
Yeah, those things could be influenced to do that as well. But no, so like even like some of the ways that people dress, right? I don't think that's a good thing to promote. Not always. Like for instance, like it is a good thing in hip hop. One of the moral obligations you have in hip hop is to be reckless with your money.
Right, you gotta have that chain.
Yes, go ahead. You know, spend half your net worth on a chain, right? Like this is somehow taught as like an acceptable thing, and rappers do this all the time, going broke doing stupid stuff. What then? Soulja Boy, he bought like a Gulfstream jet and went broke. He didn't have enough money to put fuel in it. Right. So like this type of behavior, like it's just tons of like I would call coonish activity. You know, and yeah, but the fact that that's promoted, like, is it not even just the music, but just the culture. Like this is This is an acceptable thing to do because rappers are doing it. People part of the movement are doing it. They go. This is something they brag about. You see, dudes who's highly influenced by this culture, like on their Instagram pages, they're flashing money, right? Flashing like a bunch of hundreds. That might, yeah, it might be worth.
They get robbed, bro.
Yeah, flashing maybe like $2,000. Man, like that wouldn't even cover my rent for the month. $2,000. Like, what are you talking about? Well, I mean, that type of behavior like is what I'm concerned about. It's not even just the violence, not even just the loose sexual activity and stuff, but like just the mindset. I look at the people who are highly influenced by this culture, and I don't see a lot of good coming from it. I see some good, but I see a whole lot of bad, and to me, the weights, they're not balancing out.
I think again that goes back to your view. You know, from where you sit, that's what you've seen. I've seen both sides. I've seen where it's done a lot of good for a lot of people. But again, I was in the industry and I was around a lot of people, and I saw where a lot of people came from and where they got to make. Even if there's certain people who I know that started off rapping, trying to get out of a bad situation, and they didn't necessarily make it big as a rapper, but it put them in other rooms. So now, you know, they're executives or they're A&Rs, or they're able to do other things or whatever. So I have seen this work a lot of times in a positive way for a lot of people. So hip hop, I'm looking at this, and the reason, you know, I'm gonna keep going back to movies because, or just anything. I can go back to anything because, like I said before, nothing is all good or all bad. So I see both the good and the bad.
I see those things too, even with the movies. Like I think like if removing movies would create a net positive for society, I would advocate removing them.
Yeah.
So like I just put hip hop in the same boat. I think
don't take away John Wick and the Matrix.
Well, yeah.
Don't take away John Wick and the Matrix.
Yeah. So I mean,
but then there is a this is also based off of opinion as well, and I'm gonna tell you why. I spoke to somebody, it's a white person, who said that Roots promotes slavery.
You say Flutes?
Roots. The movie
Roots.
Or the book?
Yeah, okay. the movie Roots, it promotes slavery, and they think that Roots should be eradicated. Just get it out of here. Just get it out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I have to hear the argument.
Yeah, what's their argument with that? Yeah,
this goes back to opinions. This goes back to opinions, is what I'm saying. It's from where you sit and what you see and how you receive things. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, but I think there's a difference between telling something true that happened historically, right? Like you can say what happened on 9/11, right? That's a historical thing versus you saying I'm going to bomb buildings. That's two different things to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but rappers also are historians.
Yeah.
I thought they were actors. Right?
Actors. That's
what we're talking about. Okay.
Both sides. I mean, there are some that actually rap what they live, and then there are a lot that don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have made that clear earlier. I'm sorry. Yeah. But yes, it's both sides. It's both sides. There are some that are absolutely not about that life.
Yeah, you have some that actually been in the streets and actually lived that life. There's some that's just emulating that life and emulating what they see in the streets and the people they were around.
This is another problem that I have because we're talking about like keeping the real. You know, it's how it's an understood concept.
I hate that saying. I hate that saying itself. I hate when I hear that. I hate when I hear somebody say that.
Yeah.
I think hip hop's fascination with authenticity is a little toxic because here's the issue. I got him in trouble. My wife just texted me. I did something. Okay. Let's check to me.
Keeping it real.
Yeah. But okay, yeah. So when we talk about like some of these rappers, how they're talking about shooting people and selling drugs. When it's been exposed that a rapper wasn't actually doing that, it's frowned upon.
Right.
Why?
Because you're lying. Because you're thinking and acting like you're something that you're not.
Okay. All right. And it's respectable if I actually was doing the god awful things that I was saying in the music.
Because it's like an author that's telling their own story.
But still, you know, if a Klansman tells the truth that he went out and started hanging N-words, right? That wouldn't be like, oh, you know, I respect that.
Hey,
we gotta look at what he's doing.
I do respect that.
That's a good point.
Telling me that you're doing it.
That's a good point.
I respect that.
That's a good point because if they're actors, then who cares if they're lying? You know what I'm saying? If it's purely, hey, if rappers are actors and they say, hey, look, man, I'm just rapping, bro. You know, and it comes out that they weren't actually killing people and selling drugs
because
a lot of them actually do say
get mad at
that you're supposed to be giving an account. The understanding is that you're giving an account of your actual life. When it comes to actors, we know that they have been given a script. So we're not expecting you to be what we're seeing on screen. But when it comes to rappers, the understanding is that you are telling us exactly who you are. So when it comes out that this isn't who you are, then it's like, oh, well, you're a fraud.
Exactly. But I thought it was acting though. Like rappers are actors. I thought we established they're actors and historians.
I was saying that there are both sides. There are some that are acting and not really, you know, what they say they are, and then there are some that really are.
So if one guy, he's an actor, he comes out, he's saying all this, and it comes out he actually wasn't, and he just says, "Hey, I'm an actor. Why y'all mad?" Would you find that as a valid justification for why he was lying?
No, I wouldn't find that as a valid.
So at some extent, we don't like actors in rap, regardless.
The difference is there's a difference.
I don't believe what none of them niggas say.
Lying. There's a difference between acting and lying.
Okay.
But I don't understand why they have the respect just for being authentic. Like Jeezy, like he's so respected in the hood because we know he was actually doing what he said he was doing in his music.
Right.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, why does that garner respect?
Right.
You know, if someone told me they was doing that, I'll be like, no, you're a coon, bro. You had other brothers out here that get locked up, suffering because of stuff you're doing. Somebody's mom is now hooked on drugs because of you. I don't care if you're telling me the truth. What you did was disgusting. It's destructive to the community. That's what I'm saying. Like,
but
authenticity does not.
It's disgusting.
Listen,
it's this. I'm not caping for anybody or anything like that. It's disgusting to you because you may not have grew up in that lifestyle or in that culture. You understand what I'm saying? Somebody like me that grew up in that culture and know certain things and had to be around hustlers and had my own type of hustles or anything. Even though I never sold drugs, I was around that and I did other things other than hustling. That things that I had to do to be able to eat. To be able to have shoes and clothes on my back, and I'm talking about in elementary school. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because I seen what the drug game did too. So it's certain things. If I have to do certain things to feed my family, I'm worried about my family first, as opposed to anybody else's family. You know what I mean? I'm just speaking facts.
God forbid that
if we're going to tell
one of
Jesus'
your
story,
children
let's tell the entire story.
Yeah,
because that last album that he just dropped a few weeks ago, it's all mature, it's growth. So if we're going to tell the story, let's tell the whole story.
Well, yeah, so that's good.
I'm
cool about I'm cool about the growth. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about the destructive behavior that was promoted before that. And so to you, was be so like if God forbid you had a loved one that had a serious drug addiction, was struggled with cocaine or crack or whatever.
I did.
Okay, and you found a rapper who knew that and was still selling them drugs, getting rich off of that.
He said, "I gotta eat."
Yeah, would you respect that person?
To be honest, when I came up, I had a lot of hustlers that I knew that was selling my family drugs. Those same hustlers was also giving me game, was also teaching me certain things that helped me make money as well, to help my fortune. You understand what I'm saying? So I respected a lot of them because it was like they were telling me, you don't want to be this. Here's another way so you don't have to be this. You understand what I'm saying? So I learned a lot from them. So they garnished my respect in a different way. as opposed to that I knew they were selling. They wasn't forcing my family to use those drugs.
Well, sure, but
You
I
understand
mean,
what I'm saying?
Bro,
yeah,
if I found out
but
somebody was selling
still.
drugs to my mom, bro, we're probably fighting, bro. Like,
Right,
like
right.
bro,
And then-
like you know me. You know me, and you still selling my drugs to my mom. Like that's a
right,
problem, bro.
and to make it even
Your
worse,
mom is going to get drugged. I'd
but-
rather have.
but-
I ain't gonna
yeah.
lie. Give me
but not just to make,
I ain't
but
gonna
not just,
lie. Ain't gonna lie. People was overdosing back in those times as well, right? People was overdosing times back in well. I'd rather have somebody that knows me and respects me to a certain point where they're not going to sell my mom or my aunt or whoever bad drugs. Because if they're going to get drugs, they're going to go
All
get them either
drugs are
way.
bad. So
No,
it's like
listen to what I'm
you can
saying.
have
I'm
good
talking about
drugs.
no. There are some drugs that are worse than others.
It's like
If you understand what I'm saying, there are some drugs that are worse than others. Just like look at the fentanyl epidemic right now. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You have some people that will sell you fentanyl just to make the money, as opposed to some people that know your mom or anything that won't sell your mom fentanyl because they know it would kill her out of respect for you and out of love for
But
you.
there's no loyal drug dealer though.
yes, and
that's a fallacy.
They're selling drugs. Like
that's a fallacy.
To add
That's a
insult
fallacy.
to injury,
Okay.
not just
I'm speaking from being there. I'm speaking from being there.
Okay,
I don't know
but
where
what
y'all
I'm saying,
speaking from, but I'm speaking from actually being there.
okay, but what I'm saying is, so even to I grew up in rural North Carolina, right? And so we had our own issues, right? But it wasn't like, the urban streets or anything. But if my mom was hooked on drugs and someone was selling it to her, I'd be furious.
Absolutely.
And I will be even more furious if they were bragging about doing it.
All right.
Which is exactly what they're doing in the music.
Yeah.
And then we're saying, oh, because he's authentic, he's keeping it real.
They're bragging about doing what they had to do to eat and to feed their family.
Yeah, but there's other ways.
We keep going away from that.
But
there's other ways. This is what I'm talking about. See, this is what I'm talking about. Y'all don't know because y'all didn't grow up in that environment.
No, there's other ways.
You don't know.
Music.
When I grew up in that environment, there was things that I had to do that were not moral that I had to do to eat.
Let me. I grew up.
Then you don't understand that.
I grew up in the South. I grew up in Louisiana. So though my mom sheltered me from a lot of that stuff because she didn't want me turn into that. I'm from the era where you had to be home for the street lights, and like when my mom got better education, she's still implying those principles. But I can remember my little brother being handed a joint and smoking it. He didn't know no better, I can remember growing up and seeing some of these things, seeing dudes, at the liquor store, drinking all day. So I'm from that environment. My mom just was like, we're not going to be participating in any of this mess. And she got us out. And how did she get out? By selling drugs to get out? No, she said, I'm going to work 50, 60 hours for my kids and get us out. And that's what she did.
Do you believe that everybody is afforded the same opportunities?
Exactly. Everybody.
Exactly. So if I'm
most people are
opportunities, I'm going to, no, that's not true. That is not true at all.
That's
not true. That's not true at all. Everybody's not.
And here's the reality. Some people don't even try. They just like, well, I'm gonna just do the drugs because right.
Okay, and all right, Chris, check this out. So I was a while back, me and my cousin, we were in the car riding, right? Mm-hmm. And he pointed to this block and he said, I remember being 12 years old and being homeless. It's sitting right there. And I was like, yo, what happened? Why were you homeless at 12? He said, my father, who is his uncle, my uncle, his father, and his mother, both strung out on drugs, father in and out of jail. Mm-hmm. He said, I had to be the man of the house. Now, 12 years old, I can't go get a job.
That was my story.
So what am I going to do?
That was my story.
He drops out of school and he starts selling drugs because he's worried about where his next meal is coming from.
Exactly.
He's worried about getting a roof over his head. So those are the stories that Chris is talking about.
Yeah,
that's what he's talking about. Those stories. You had the luxury of not having to worry about being in that position. But if you're desperate enough, you can't tell me what you won't do.
Exactly.
I'm not even arguing what someone should but rather what's right to do, even in this issue. So I mean, you're faced with a moral dilemma, right? From a 12-year-old's perspective, you can sell drugs to people who's going to kill them if they keep on this path. Even one time could kill you technically. But let's just say, hey, they're just going to live a normal drug life. This is destructive to their life, so they're being killed. by this poison essentially you give them, or you struggle to have basic necessities in life. This is the moral dilemma that you're faced with.
See,
I argue.
Tell
you
that to
keep
a
going back
12-year-old.
to that. I didn't even have the basic necessities. You understand what I'm saying? I'm struggling. I had to do things in order just to get to that level of just having the basic necessities: food, water, clothes on my back, a place to lay my head. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think
That comes before everything. If you don't have a choice, I'm talking about inner city kids that don't have a choice, that don't have those options that like you may have had. You know what I mean? It's a lot of that in the hood. When I grew up, it was a lot of that.
I think this. So like I think so if we have kids in the hood, that's struggling and all that kind of stuff, they're in a very precarious situation, right? If instead of having music was saying, I sold drugs to get my way out, said there was music that was saying, hey, I got my mindset right, be proactive, and became an entrepreneur. I wasn't selling drugs. Hey, I was selling popsicles. Oh, I was mowing people's lawns.
I stole my first lawnmower. Yeah, started mowing lawns.
Right, I started mowing people's lawns. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I started doing positive hustle. I was actually helping. But
I was gonna cut the concrete.
Yeah, I
lost that concrete, bro.
Right?
Like, what you need?
I was selling lemonade. You know what I'm saying? Like all kinds of stuff. Like this, I did a hustle that was actually helping people. And there's so many options available to that. But here's the thing: these children sometimes they're listening to this music and they think, "Oh, I'm in this bad situation. My only way out is drugs." Sometimes we think we're in a moral dilemma, and we're actually not.
Right?
There's not a moral dilemma at all. There's a way out. We just choosing drugs, and it's not even a really even the easiest way. Like there was when I was back in high school, there was dudes that were selling drugs, and this cat, he was making less than what I was making working as a bagger at Piggly Wiggly.
He was an idiot.
He was smoking drugs too or something. He was getting high off his own supply.
Some people just not good at it.
Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, right?
Okay.
When I was living in DC, and my story is well documented. I was on the news and all of that for my story, right? When I was living in DC, some of those hustles that I was talking about, I actually told the news reporter when he asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I told him a hustler. The first thing that everybody went through is me saying that I wanted to be a drug dealer. I never said that because what we talked about hustles back then, when we talked about hustles, it was whatever you had to do to make money. So I sold newspapers. I went door to door selling candy. You know what I mean? I pumped gas. I carried bags. I did all those type of things to make money. That's what I meant by being a hustle, just in the hustle and bustle of things, is just making money, right? So when I moved to the Eastern Shore, none of those things were available. You understand what I'm saying? But I still needed to do things that I needed to do to eat. So now I had to resort to other things. So now I had to go steal. I had to go rob. You understand what I'm saying? Because I didn't have the opportunities that I had in DC
they weren't the same opportunities.
The basic things. No, there wasn't the same opportunities.
There was different opportunities.
But those things weren't here. You don't understand what I'm telling you. You have to understand what I'm saying. You have to be there and be in that situation to understand exactly what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying?
Just a little bit, but I know guys, like I know entrepreneurs that came out of the hood, but they were just doing legal hustles.
I just told you all the legal hustles that I was doing. But I just told you all the legal hustles that I was doing. But when I came to another area where those type of opportunities weren't provided, I had to do other things and find other ways to get the basic necessities that I couldn't do when I was in DC. Those opportunities weren't here when I came to the shore.
Okay, you don't. So, but hip hop, it presents a lot of artists. They present themselves in a situation, and they suggest that the only way they could have made it was to sell drugs.
Right.
That could be true.
It could also not be true.
In their individual situations,
I would say the vast majority of the times it wasn't true because there's a lot of things that people need other than drugs.
That's true.
I don't see why you couldn't be like, hey, I'm selling lemonade, selling clothes. I mean, yeah, like there was just so many things that you could have hustled.
So in my cousin's case, we're talking about a 12-year-old. We're talking about 12-year-old who grew up in an environment where all he saw was hustlers, and the people that he saw as successful were hustlers. We're talking about somebody whose mother was strung out on drugs and whose father was also strung out on drugs and in and out of jail. That's all he saw. That was all that he saw. So his options are very limited. Let me tell you something about DC. You ain't gonna sell no lemonade to people, to everybody in the hood, and make no money. That ain't happening.
No,
it's not happening. You ain't cutting no grass because it ain't no grass to cut. Okay, it's just a different. It's a different area.
Let's talk about this real quick.
You can't tell me what you're supposed to do.
You be selling T-shirts.
Hold on. You saying selling T-shirts? T-shirt material costs money. Where are you going to get the money for the T-shirts? Where are you going to get the vinyl for the prints?
Where are you going to get the machine?
Where are you going to get the drugs? Where you get the drugs?
Selling drugs?
Consignment. Consignment. People will give you drugs on consignment.
But hold on.
You can do the same with T-shirts.
No. Ain't nobody giving you a T-shirt print machine on consignment.
Let's talk about the danger of selling drugs.
Especially at not 10 years old. Nobody is going to give a 10-year-old a T-shirt printing company and a machine and things like that on consignment.
That's not going to happen. 12-year-olds getting murdered for selling drugs.
No, let's be realistic. I would do that. I would totally do that. If a kid told me, he says, "Hey, I'm struggling. I have he brought to me his plan, and I saw to see that it was serious. I take like here's like $2,000 for T-shirts. You might not even need that much.
We're talking about 9, 10, 11-year-olds that are barely out of elementary.
There's numerous stories, like go search them out, where like 12-year-olds have started they started a patent, they have started a business plan. I'm speaking.
These little kids selling rocks. And I'm speaking showing faces on rocks.
And I'm speaking before the internet.
Different time.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm speaking before the internet.
Exactly.
Times right now may be different where you can see and be exposed to a lot of instruction and a lot of things now where you can get the information. At that time when I came up, there was no information. You had to go to the library and you had to sit down with an Encyclopedia Britannica or something.
Is it possible that hip hop music has put people in a mindset to think that sometimes that if I'm in a hood, the only way I can get out is by resorting to immoral behavior, is by resorting to self-destructive behavior?
I believe that people can receive it that way.
That's a good question.
Where's the
unquestionably yes.
That's a good question.
To his point, where's the rapper, telling the kid to sell the lemonade as a positive way out of the hood?
There are a lot of those out there. It's a lot of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to rap music, you don't listen to a lot of rap music. It's a lot of rappers out there.
The point I'm making,
investing money, that's promoting putting your money in the right place.
The point I'm making is
buying real estate. And things
what's the ratio? 100 to 1, maybe?
No, because you know why you don't hear it? Because it's not being pushed.
I hear
it. It's not being marketed.
It's not being pushed.
It's not being marketed.
The point I'm making. The point I'm making, that's not the message that is mainly pushed. That is not the mainly that's rapped about.
Is that on the rappers?
As you said, people in the hood don't want to
rap. You think every rapper should rap about positivity and consciousness, and that will change the world.
Shouldn't be.
That will change the world.
Whether it changes the world or not is not my ultimate concern. It may not.
If it's not, then we shouldn't be having this conversation.
No, if it improved the world, if it'll slightly improve the world, then sure. Like if there was a cure to cancer, that wouldn't change the world. But
people still going to kill people,
right? There still be other problems. What I'm saying, but if this was a cure, hey, let's do this. If it creates some sort of marginal benefit, then I'd be all for it.
So there would be the cure for cancer would offer the good side and the bad side, right? Because people would still die, like you said, Chris. People would still actually die, but there's still now the cure is there, right?
There'd be a positive net income. Is what he's saying.
Okay, so hip hop. Are we now saying that there is no good in hip hop?
No. I think we've all kind of admitted that there's good in hip hop.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, the ability to express yourself is good.
Instead of advocating for rappers to stop rapping about their experiences or about murder, we should advocate more for the companies to promote more positive rap and to market more positive rap. So
I'm saying rappers should stop glorifying drugs and killing and misogyny. That's the problem. They shouldn't be doing that. I would argue.
What's the percentage of rap you think that glorifies these things?
All mainstream. I would say all.
You
Majority
said mainstream. We're not talking about mainstream because I just covered that.
Well, that's included.
Mainstream is what's being pushed. Mainstream, but it's not the rappers that's pushing mainstream music. The record companies and the radio stations are pushing mainstream music.
Yeah, but the rappers rap about it.
Huh?
Yeah, but the rappers rap about it.
Okay, but you don't have an idea of how much conscious rap is out there. You know why you don't have that idea? Because it's not being pushed in your direction. It's not being put out there.
I'm aware.
That's why I asked you what the percentage. So you wouldn't know the percentage because you don't know.
Well, what's the percentage?
I don't know.
Yeah. So it's like
I know it
turns around.
I listen to a lot of rap music. But I know that there's a high percentage of more conscious rap out there that's not being pushed. I don't even listen to the radio.
I totally agree. Yeah,
I don't even listen to the radio. I don't even listen to the radio. All the rap I listen to, a lot of the rap that I listen to pushes more consciousness and talks more about consequences than it does about murder.
We've already established.
I don't listen to Chief Keef. I don't listen to all of that kind of music. I don't
with conscious
listen to none of that stuff.
They do have that same. They have that in their plethora of their tape deck, right?
But why don't you hear it? Why don't you hear it?
What do you mean? That's what I'm sharing with you.
No, I'm saying, why don't you hear it? Do you listen to conscious rap music?
I don't now. I don't listen to any of what they say, the secular or non, or the conscious or the. So yeah,
and that's why you don't know that it exists.
Exactly.
No, hold on. No. I acknowledge that it exists, and I'm sharing that there's a contradictory message even in the conscious rappers. We talked about that. So mainstream, I'm saying mainstream is a problem, and conscious is a problem. I find it,
and it's not an attack on you, but I find it crazy that you can recognize a contradictory message in rap music, but you can't recognize it in the Bible. When it's right in front of your face. That's called a bias. That's called a bias. That's called a bias. That's called a bias.
It's totally irrelevant. It's
like called a bias.
It's like you can recognize what I'm saying here, but you got a blue shirt on. Okay, it's like it's totally irrelevant. The conversation we're having.
My problem is and I listen to a lot of conscious rappers, and I mean, there's a lot of rappers that's saying all kinds of things, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The guys who that we think are that we agree that are toxic to the culture, their voices are a lot louder than the ones who aren't. And even the conscious ones, I'd still argue that they're still creating this mindset that you have to resort to destructive behavior in order to get out of precarious situations. And I just don't think that's true.
I'm telling you the exact reason why their voices are louder. Their voices are louder because the powers that be are amplifying their voices as opposed to the conscious rappers. We can't keep putting it on the rappers.
That's not the only reason.
I'm not
that is the main reason.
I'm talking about
not the only reason, but that is the main reason.
Push that agenda.
They push that because
exactly.
So you're only pushing a message that you're standing behind because it's consumer based driven. I mean, they wouldn't push it if that's not what the culture was wanting and people were listening to. So I mean, again,
I disagree. I disagree with that. But go ahead. Go ahead.
I disagree.
I mean, it's any business.
I vehemently disagree with that.
Any good business owner. I mean, you can set up your vegan shop, but I mean, you're in the middle of an obese area. It's probably not going to sell too well. You can only have a successful business that's dictated on your consumers. And rap is a consumer based
people. I'm gonna tell you something. Part of the reason that I walked away from the music industry is because they were trying to push me in that direction.
Exactly.
I'm sure
the powers that be. That is why I walked away.
Yeah, but I think you can acknowledge most people won't do what you did. Most people will say, "My family got to eat," just like he said.
So that's a hell of a dilemma to be faced with.
It is.
I don't think it's here's my question. Here's my question, right? Because now we're talking about like hip hop, like not good, not necessarily good or bad, but it's a tool that's used to promote positive and promote negative things, right? Yeah. Now, would society be better off if that tool just didn't exist?
Yes.
You could not promote murder through hip hop if there was no hip hop. Notice I didn't say you couldn't promote murder, but you couldn't do it through hip hop.
Okay, so
that's like saying if guns didn't exist, will people still get killed?
Well, of course they would.
Right. So I mean, that wouldn't matter.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
I don't think it would matter.
People would find another venue. People would find another alternative. I think
exactly.
But the main means they're using to do it would be gone. I think that's
So,
kind of what he's getting at.
but to answer the question, I can't say that things will be better off because there's been so much good that's come as a result of hip hop. So if you take away all of the bad things that come from hip hop, you also taking away all of the good things when you take hip hop away.
But most of the good things that I was hearing was just like, stories of individual artists helping their families out, right? But when I see the culture at large, it looks like they're stepping on far more people and injuring far more people than the single individuals that are being helped.
It's more than just single individuals. We act like violence. We act like violence. These people are helping communities. They're doing a lot of really great things in the communities.
Yes.
And see, Chris, you are so disconnected from it. That's why you don't see it.
Hold on. I'm not disconnected because I came from that. I lived in it.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about.
I listened to rap music before. Is what I'm saying.
Currently happening with these musicians and the things that they're doing in the communities.
So when I say
to them,
when I say I don't listen to it, I don't bump it for pleasure, but I hear it. So I understand what's going on in the culture.
I'm talking about past the music. I'm talking about the things that they
give
communities.
Rick Ross gives away clothes and turkey drives. I understand all that happening. So all of but you give me a turkey, but you give me crack too. I mean, it's like, thank you, sure. I mean, I guess, yeah. To me that actually goes back to the point I'm saying, like, it's a contradictory message that's being pushed, right? We teach people help each other, right? But then it's like, well, I'll give you crack too. This is going to help me, it's going to kill you. But yeah, I gave you a turkey. I gave you some clothes. I built this school here. To me, why not just eliminate the drugs?
Listen,
the murder.
It's two sides to every coin, and you just want to have to accept that other side. Chris, you are, as a Christian,
I don't think we have to accept
the other cheek, right? But
this is a false dichotomy.
But we're taught to turn the other cheek as Christians, right?
Not to murder.
No, I got you. But
I think it's for the gospel's sake. Turning the other cheek for the gospel's sake.
Exactly. I punch you in the face. If I was to punch you in the face, what are you going to do?
It depends the reason why you did it. Was I preaching the gospel, or you just punched me?
It doesn't matter the reason.
No, I would argue. I would argue it would. Like
if I punch you in the face,
if you came in my home and punched me. I got things to solve that. That's all I can
say. You supposed to turn another cheek.
No. That's why I say it's contextual.
You mean like
we can get in a Bible debate.
You mean like hip hop?
What? But hold on. What reason is there to actually punch somebody and sell people drugs besides the fact that you just want to get rich off them?
No,
it's feed your family. Feed their family.
Let me be clear.
Thank you.
But you can eat other ways. You don't have to punch them in the face.
I don't have no other way right now.
Yes,
you do. You do.
Doesn't have another way.
Hip hop told you there's no other way, but there's so many other ways.
You're talking to somebody. You're talking to somebody that didn't have no other way. So you can't tell me that.
I don't.
You can't tell me that.
I'm not.
You can't tell me somebody that didn't have another way. You cannot tell me that.
But also, you're not everybody else.
Not have another way.
But what you're doing is saying, since I didn't have another way, nobody else had another way at 12.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the people that did not have another way. Y'all are saying that the people that had another way, found another way, but you don't know that they didn't have another. You don't.
We're saying there are other ways.
Have another way.
I am not convinced that nobody has another way.
Like they didn't have another way.
I'm telling you from my experience that I did things where I did not have another way.
And if you would have got caught selling drugs, you definitely wouldn't have had any other way.
But that was the risk that I was willing to take to eat.
Or murder. Or get murdered.
It was either that or starve.
I see, that's where I'm like, I do think there are other
like
ways.
Again, if you were never faced with that dilemma, you would never understand.
Well, but this is an experience-based argument, which is like I can't address since I'm not you. So I can turn around and say, well, hey, I didn't do it. So then if you're not me,
okay, but if
you
it's
can
an
address
experience-based if it's an experience-based argument, then you can't say that people that did not have another way had another way if you don't know.
See, this is
you haven't had that experience.
But
you can't tell somebody that has had that experience that there is another way if you never had that experience.
But then I can appeal to the person who had that experience but had another way and say, well, they're right.
That makes
Yeah,
no sense.
yes.
That don't make no sense.
You're making
That don't make any sense.
That's
So,
what I'm trying to point out.
Hey guys, let me jump in real quick.
The authority.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. So I hadn't contributed a lot to the conversation. I've just been kind of listening and trying to learn a little bit in the process. Two things I wanted to address before we wrap things up, because I think we're about that time.
I love this conversation. It's dope. It's really good.
I agree. I enjoyed listening to it, and I didn't partake much, but I did get to listen and learn a little bit. First thing is that, and it's not to take anything away from any single person's experience, but I think everybody has been in a situation in which they felt they were doing the best possible thing that they could do. Right? That doesn't necessarily mean that there's not another way. That doesn't mean that there was another way present. It just means in that moment, in that experience, you did what you felt was necessary. Now, with that in mind, everybody that's ever been in a similar situation, or in even remotely similar situation, may have done things differently. They may have done things much, much worse. They may have done things that were all legal and squeaky clean across the board. That's not up for us to judge. I think the whole purpose of the conversation was, at least from my experience and listening in, is to kind of understand that if people are promoting it as the only option or the best way out, then perhaps that's not a good thing to do.
I get that.
The other thing I wanted to address is, Terrell, you mentioned earlier, you specifically made a playlist to listen to called Just In Case. And I didn't want to go into psychology too much, and I didn't want to talk, like, kind of overwrite the whole conversation with the psychology thing. But that's something everybody in the room and everybody that watches this should consider, is that if you think that putting a playlist together will help you get in that mindset, then you should be aware of how powerful music can be. I'm not saying it's going to force you to do something, but I'm saying you literally put together a playlist to get into a particular mindset about a potential fight that might come up, right? So that music can drive adrenaline, it can drive emotions, it can literally steady your heart rate. Music is a very powerful tool, and how it's being used and the people that are promoting it in certain ways, not saying it's not due to the managers or the publicists or the people that have the money behind the scenes, all here and there, but the purpose is, if we're looking at it from a standpoint of being a net negative or net positive, perhaps like a cancer, it should be cut out. And that was the question. I'm not saying it is a net negative or is a net positive. It's not my place to say. With that in mind, I'm going to go in a round table, starting with K-Dub to Terrell, then Chevrolet, and Oglesby. You're going to have last word of the show. Anything you want to say, please don't interrupt the others. When you're done, just say the name of the person beside you on the screen.
Yeah. So again, I, as someone who grew up in the South, I love music. I love rap music. I love all kinds of music, and I'm thankful for a medium. I think rap is unique because other than other genres, you can pack a lot of content in it. You know, whereas R&B is kind of just your same melody hook, and like the songs kind of is what it is. Rap, man, you can pack so much things into it, and so I do love the genre. But I also don't like the genre because of a lot of the stuff that has come out of it, or rather that's shared using this medium. I do think glorifying killing, misogyny, drugs, even for the sake of, hey, I had to do it to survive, it's still bad. It's that's just a justification for it. And so obviously I would like to see that change. And I hope conversations like this will be productive, and, people who, at the very least, who watch this will be informed on, a good cordial conversation. And so thank y'all for having it.
Fantastic. Because I don't want to respond to something that you said. You're talking about the playlist that I did. And yes, it absolutely has a direct influence on music itself. It does have an influence on people. And yes, I did create that playlist for that purpose. However, the point that I was making was that if I were to do something in that moment while listening to that music, it would not be because of the music that I was listening to. It's because I made the decision to do it. And the
right,
music
and I'm not debating that or disparaging that. I'm just saying that, like, it's something to consider on the psychology of music and the role it has on the mind. Because you felt maybe not that it was necessary, but you felt that it would have assisted your mind being in the right place by listening to that playlist, right? Like, that's the whole reason you put it together, is that you thought, I might need that extra boost of adrenaline. I might need that little kick over the edge, right? And so you might be 99% of the way there on your own, ready to pull the trigger, right? Not literally, but in the sense of you're ready to make that decision. And what music does and can do, not always, but what it has the amazing ability to do is it can turn something on in your mind and push you over that edge, because music, you know, like they say, music is the closest thing we'll ever have to a universal language, and music is, you know, part of the soul, right? Music has an innate ability to transform people and the way they think. And when you put music on with an intentional mindset, like the one you said you had when going into that situation, what you're doing is you're saying, well, just in case. It's kind of like saying, you know, you got like some drugs, some uppers or some speed or something that, you know, like, I got to keep it in a back pocket just in case things pop off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that is the whole story, or that's the whole reason the situation occurred, or even that it will be 100% influence, or that it will even influence you at all. It's just that we know music is so powerful and is so impactful, and it has such a swaying effect on people that listen to it, that even in your thought process of getting ready for that situation, you were like, yo, you know what will help? Putting this music playlist together. Like, if I need to get in that mindset, this music is going to help me do that.
Now, I agree with that. And also the other part of that, you know, that comes from that is, you got to also keep in mind, I'm a boxer, I'm a fighter. So before sparring, before, you know, sometimes
turn on some music, don't you?
It does help get you to that point. So I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying that what the music is at that point, the music isn't the decision. The music doesn't make me make the decision. I've already made the decision. The music is just going to help me just stay there, stay in that mindset. It's going to help boost me up for the decision that I've already made.
Yeah, I get you. I get you 100%. I just wanted to kind of throw it out there and talk about psychology and music a little bit. I think it's very fascinating. Triple A, you have anything quick before we go to Oglesby with last word?
No, I didn't have anything.
All right. Oglesby, you're going to get last word of the show.
I thought you was going to him. I was trying to think about what I was going to say.
I told you what order it was going to go in. Next time, listen. Next time, listen.
Nah, I got it.
All right, cool. Oglesby, last word of the show. Anything you want to say, promote, plug?
Man, I just want to say, man,
wrap it up. It's all
y'all
yours.
having me on, man. I always love these discussions with y'all, man. It is very thought-provoking, you know what I mean? I'm sorry if I get into my argumentative mode sometimes, but I get passionate about, you know, some of the things that we talk about. Just as far as with music, man, you know, I do want to see a lot more conscious rap being promoted. I wish that we could have these conversations and it would kind of influence the rappers to kind of like do a different type of music despite of what the record labels push for it. But I do understand the business side of things. So I just wish everybody to be safe. You know what I mean? Listen to the music and let it do what it do for you. And with that, that's it. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
And I want to just add one more thing. I want to make it very clear that I am also not a fan of a lot of the messages.
I don't listen to a lot of that garbage.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of a lot of the messages. Yeah. But I do think that the conversation needs to be broadened, and it needs to, you know, the onus shouldn't be put all on the music. The music, I mean, the onus also needs to be put on the individual. We need to start getting into these communities and talking to these children and you know, even people who are even older, you know, and the people who are so influenced by the music. That's where we need to go.
Yeah. Not
just the music. We need to go to the people that are actually committing these heinous acts. So I just think that so put it this way, I'm not putting it all on hip hop. I think that the blame should be shared all the way around.
Yeah, I think it would be unfair to put any onus or all the onus of anything on any one particular thing, with exception of an individual. But with that in mind, I think this is a good conversation. I appreciate all of you guys coming on. K-Dub slipped out of here, but thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you, Relic Media, for just being there with us and supporting us. Yeah. Oglesby, thank you for coming on. We're always welcome you and Terrell to come on the show.
Hey,
don't have a guest line.
I want to debate him on this contradictory Bible thing. I'm telling you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll host it. We'll host it if you're willing.
That was crazy. That was crazy for him to say that. Like, he's not here to defend himself right now, but I think that was very crazy and biased for him to say that. That was wild.
Hey, if you're both willing and you'll let us, we'll host it. We'll be glad to. We'll both sit on the back seat.
Let's do that because that was wild.
All right. Well, I don't think we have a guest lined up next week. That doesn't mean we won't necessarily be hosting, but I appreciate you guys for watching. We'll probably see you next week.